on the road again.
Doom, 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 doom.
The Kings are 0-2 on the road trip.
Doom, 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 doom.
Jokic and OG went off again.
Doom, 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 doom.
Mikal Bridges said the rims were crooked. Welcome back to the Kang Gang Pod, episode number 29.
Wow.
Is that right? Are we at 29?
I think that's right.
Let's go, boys.
I believe we are.
We're tuning in directly after this atrocity of a game in New York. The Kings just have a ton of trouble playing in New York. I think the last time we won there was 2019.
Wow.
It's just been brutal. We give up the most points in this season with 143. The Kings lose by 23. Let's dive right in. Actually, before we dive in, we lost against Denver too. 132
What
to
is
123.
happening to our team?
So now we're 0-2.
Oh, gosh.
That was a schedule loss, though.
On the
Denver
road
was a schedule
trip.
loss.
Then a back-to-back. Yeah, that's brutal.
I mean, RT predicted that we would go 4-2, so now we got to win out
We got to
on
win
this road
out.
trip.
It's
So
not looking good with the way the Kings have been playing the last two games. So,
I know, but I mean, defense.
I mean, we gave
Perimeter
ourselves a chance to win against the Denver game. We got to play all four quarters, but the Knicks game tonight was no defense being played at all.
I mean, I think there was three three-pointer fouls this game, and I think in the Denver game there was probably two. I mean, we might lead the league in potential 4-point play foul calls. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just.
You could drive a sack brew bike through the Kings lanes tonight. I could count so many times where they just had free lanes to the basket. Like I remember going into halftime, we had a bucket and then they literally had 3 seconds to go all the way down the court and had a free layup to score.
Yeah.
So, yeah, crazy.
It's the points in the paint is the story of both games. Denver, I think they scored 68, and then in this game it was 58. So not good.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they shot very well from the three-point line. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Kings killers tonight.
Yeah.
The two, they're probably third and fourth option on the team. Those two were the leading scorers, and then Kat and Jalen Brunson, who are your 1 and 2, were the third and fourth leading scorers. Or actually, Kat was the fifth. Then Josh Hart has a triple-double.
Yeah, Josh Hart had a triple-double tonight.
Yeah, Josh
20,
Hart,
17, and I think 11 assists.
You're so close.
12?
20 points, 18 rebounds, 11 assists.
He had another
For a
rebound.
guy that's 6'4", he is getting just
That's
an
ridiculous.
astronomical amount of rebounds. And yeah, the Kings, we struggle tonight again. We just dig ourselves into a hole super early on, and that's just been the storyline. We find ourselves so deep into these holes early on, and then we're just playing catch up the whole rest of the game. But I have an interesting stat for you guys. So
Hit it with me.
in the last 14 games under Mike Brown, the Kings fell behind 14 points 5 times. And the Kings were 0-5 in those games. And in Doug Christie's 14 games, the Kings have fallen behind 14 points 8 times. But we've won 4 out of those 8 games. So when you hear that stat, what do you have to say about that?
I think that speaks a lot on Doug Christie's motivation, his way to communicate with players. Because think about it, when you put yourself in a player's shoes, if you're coming and have to overcome a big lead, you need to put your trust in a coach to have that mindset to come back. And I think the difference is when facing a big lead, the Kings believe in themselves more when Doug Christie's preaching to them versus when Mike Brown's preaching to them. Obviously, we know Mike Brown's a very more old school kind of stern coach, not really player friendly, right? So I think that just speaks volumes. I think Doug Christie, that stat that you just said shows Doug Christie has a way with connecting with players emotionally, especially during times of distress. And I don't think there's a better stat to explain that than the one you just said.
I kind of will be more on the opposite side of things. I think it's the 4 because we had that happen 8 times under Doug Christie, correct? So we haven't won games when Mike Brown was under that coach, and we've only won 4 out of them. So yes, it may be a positive thing, but also I think it's not like the best stat in the world because
it's not a fun stat.
no, it's not a fun stat
at all.
And because this I think tonight showed and on Thursday we need to fix our defense quickly. And this is going to be a season. I mean, obviously, you look at the standings right now. Phoenix we're recording this probably around 8 o'clock or so. Phoenix game is most likely going to wrap up. Phoenix is most likely ahead of against Washington. So they're probably going to pass us. And that puts us at 10th, which in 3 days before, we were 7th in the West when we beat Golden State. And so with how tight the West is, it's basically so competitive right now. There's no room for error. There's a lot of teams that are starting to get healthy again. Luka will most likely come back in the next couple weeks. Kawhi is starting to come back. You have the Timberwolves. They're starting to figure things out a little bit. Phoenix is basically one move away from being a very good team again and just being healthy. So if in order to keep up, you got to make moves at some point, or this is going to be something that's going to linger for us, and we have to play at a 10 spot, potentially playing 2 playing games on the road, which is yikes.
Yeah, Dallas lost tonight, which is huge. Denver lost tonight as well, so we're sitting tied for the 8th seed currently. But I think the stat in particular, if we're just speaking on that, shows that it gives the Kings, positive things to look at on film, saying like, hey, if you guys just play like this for all 4 quarters, we can win. Versus when Mike Brown was, our coach, we couldn't play like that at any point in the game, right? But at least with Doug Christie, we're giving ourselves a chance to come back. We're playing well in stretches in the second half, and it actually puts stuff on film for us to look back on and say, hey, we can do this. We just have to do it for more than a quarter at a time.
Yeah, and R2 harped on the defense, which is obviously it's been an issue for years, but the lack of scoring in the beginning of games, that was a theme of the beginning of the season, and now it's coming back again. And these big deficits are happening. If it's not the first quarter, it's in the second quarter, and then we have to bank on our third quarter where DeMar scores 19 points in the third quarter. We have to outscore them by 20 again. I don't know how sustainable that is. As great as the stat is, the fact that we could come back from leads, the fact that we get into those deficits so early on is just it's a struggle for us right now. And yeah, that's the biggest thing I've been noticing in these 2 losses is just we dig ourselves so deep and then we're just clawing back the rest of the game.
It shows that the Nuggets and Knicks, those are potential championship aspiration teams that basically know what it takes to get it done in the regular season and playoffs. We are not quite there yet. And I think that just shows that we have a long ways to go. We have to continue to build this roster. The players still have to continue getting better. The coaching has to continue to get better. And so right now we're kind of in the spot where it's we're most likely going to be a play-in team unless changes are made that are going to improve our roster and fix all those problems that we are facing right now.
Yeah, the top teams in the league play well for all 4 quarters. It is, the silver lining is it's actually good that, we're actually playing good in stretches now versus just completely, wetting the bed for all 4 quarters, right? Like we did under Mike Brown. So at least we're making progress in that direction. But like RT said, we do need to make some moves. A player that we like, his name rhymes with Don Ballins. That would be a good player to get. But you can see that our roster lacks size. It lacks physicality. There was no perfect example in this Knicks game with how easy they were scoring in the paint. We need a paint presence. We need another lob threat. We need some more athleticism on our wing. And Dob Dollins would solve all that.
Dob Dollins. Another guy I like is Tarbert Squilliams.
Tarbert Squilliams, He plays on the Dortland Rail Kazers.
Yeah.
I've heard of him.
He used to play with the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. Yep.
The Time Lord. Yeah. We need to make moves.
We do. Yeah. Sure. It's obviously I think Monty's known that, this is something the Kings have been lacking. But just to go back on that stat one more time, in this game, we were down 19. We cut it to 2. And then in the Denver game, we were down 25. We cut it to 6. So those energy stretches that we have are incredible. And that brings up my next point. Doug McDermott, I posted about it on the Kang Gang Instagram page, and a lot of people had a lot of great things to say. Is it time to have Doug McDermott take over the Kevin Huerter minutes? Because tonight we saw it. Well, and it was funny because actually Kevin Huerter ended up getting one more minute of playing time compared to Doug, but Doug was the first guy off the bench with Keon tonight.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate because Doug didn't get one shot off in tonight's game. Like, they bring him in early, and then we just could not get him an open shot the whole game.
I love the effort Doug brings on defense, though. Like, he just looks hungry out there. He looks like he gets in his defender. I don't know. Something about his presence on the court just really makes me feel comfortable. And I like his cutting off the ball as well. I think his cutting is a little bit better than Huerter. So I don't mind him getting Huerter's minutes at all, even though Huerter was the only one on our team to have a positive plus minus.
I know.
I think that's just luck.
He was just
he only played 9 minutes.
He was in at the best
runs.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't mind that at all. And I think the fans on your Instagram post kind of share the same sentiment that we do, that Doug should get some more PT.
I agree. I mean, I think that if Doug's been around the league for quite some time, he knows how to contribute as a rotational guy. And I think he can really contribute in ways that can help us really, really improve in terms of just spacing, shooting, all those type of things too. So I would not be opposed to it. And, if it doesn't work out, you always have Kevin Huerter to come back and just be able to take over that role again. So you have that luxury of having two players that are very similar on your team. So I think that could be a very good move just to try out, just to make it like a small little tweak.
Yeah, I would like to see Doug get more and more minutes, because when the Kings are struggling from three, watching what Doug can do with his off-ball movement and how we run plays for him, and like if he makes one, he gets hot quick. And like you saw that in that Denver game, like shooting 5 for 6 in that fourth quarter stretch was insane. And like I feel like having a guy like that on your team where he's good at this one thing and he's been good for a decade, I think we got to try and utilize him more, especially when we get into these shooting droughts. Because Kevin Huerter, he has not been shooting. Even though he did make 1 3 tonight, it was in the garbage minutes. But I think Doug McDermott, going forward, I would love to see him get around like 12 to 15 minutes of run. I would love to see that. But another thing about tonight's game that was just deflating was the offensive rebounds that New York was doing to us. They had 17 offensive rebounds. The Kings only had 9, and half of those were from Sabonis. So having a guy like Josh Hart and just other guys on their team that are just so physical, I mean, they value those extra possessions so much, and that's how New York has been such a good team. But the thing that's super interesting to me about New York is they're similar to us, where they're so reliant on their starters, where if you look at the guys who have played the most minutes in the NBA, the top 4 of them are New York Knicks players, and the 5th one is De'Aaron Fox. So talk about how New York is able to be the 3rd seed in the East. Are they 3rd, right?
Yeah.
How are they able to be the 3rd in the East when they do not rely on anyone on their bench?
I think they just have an identity. I think their 5 starters play really good together. They're all obviously great defenders. OG Anunoby, one of the best two-way players in this league. Jalen Brunson, we know how of a bad man he is. Mikal Bridges, two-way player. So they just have a starting 5 that fights. They're well coached. Tom Thibodeau won't play you unless you have a aggressive mindset and you don't play defense. So I just think their starting 5 plays really good together. And Shamet came off the bench and played really well. Precious Achiuwa too. Even though they don't play their bench as much, they in the 12 and 17 minutes that they had, they contributed. So I think they're able to do it just because their starting 5 plays so hard, and they're all motor guys. Like you can tell what kind of player their GM brings in. Guys that can play 40 minutes every night. Josh Hart with 39 minutes, OG 35, Mikal Bridges 34. These are all just very durable players. I mean, Mikal Bridges hasn't missed a game in his career.
I know. When they were saying that, I thought he missed one last year.
Right.
But
right. Yeah, he hasn't missed a game in his whole career.
Yeah,
so you can see their roster makeup is durable guys, hard-nosed guys, and Tom Thibodeau's playing them every minute of the game almost.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, you also have Deuce McBride. I know he didn't get a lot of minutes.
He's great. He's a great shooter.
Campaign is another great guy, too. I mean, that team is just so depth-wise. Jericho Sims, I know he was out. Mitchell Robinson, I know he's out, too. So, that roster, that bench is a lot more deeper than people think. And I think that overall, the Knicks are just a very well-machined team. Jalen Brunson and Kat are both all-star starters, which is crazy that 2 of them are starting in the same Eastern Conference, which is crazy. You ask anybody that was like, oh, they're going to have they're going to have 2 starters. The answer was no. You could have probably told anybody, but the fact that they did have 2 is impressive. And that just speaks on like how Jalen Brunson is a player. Karl Anthony Towns, again, I've preached about this before, but Karl Anthony Towns is playing the best basketball of his career right now. So, I mean, this team is going to be a threat in the East. I think come playoff time, this team will be right there along with the Celtics, Cavs, and the Bucks as teams that will most likely try and get out of the East.
Yeah, and they don't even have Mitchell Robinson playing right now. And he's
been out the whole year. He's been out the whole year. I think when they get him back,
that's
they're
just even
going to
more
be
of a paint presence.
a tough team. And I think a lot of the ESPN guys, they were all rooting for the Knicks to go all the way this year. Even with Boston winning, they had New York as like right when that Mikal Bridges trade happened, they were picking Knicks to go all the way. And you know, if injuries are on their side, everyone's healthy, I think they'll make a very, very deep run. Yeah. But yeah, the Kings had some pretty good fight against them. Is just the things that win games, offensive rebounding, physicality. That was definitely on New York's side, and that's like what they're known for the most. So, what do you think the Kings need to do to be more physical out there?
Well, I mean, Doug Christie always preaches it, but let the other team feel you. And I think we've done a good job under Doug Christie's tenure with having the other team feel us. But it looked like the Knicks weren't scared to shoot. Obviously, they're playing on their home court. Playing at the Garden is one of the best home court advantages any team can have, right? But I don't think they felt us right away. I think they shot freely. Their 3-point shots were going in, and then them scoring in the paint was just, the cherry on top, right? So we weren't really stopping them at all. And that speaks to Tom Thibodeau, and it speaks to the Knicks players, how they're just a physical bunch. They'll come at you. And they were just making shots. But I think we just need to get up on teams. It helps with getting a lead early, right? I feel like when a team starts hitting their shots, especially their first few threes, that's when they get comfortable. So we need to let them feel us early on the defensive end, but also we need to take care of our business on offense so that we have a lead, so that we can, play a little bit more lax on defense. Not saying be less aggressive, but not gamble on as many steals, right? So I think starting with the lead next game against Brooklyn would help that a lot.
I agree. Well said, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, scoring 25 points in the first quarter, and then we had that huge second quarter where we dropped 42. So, I mean, we're capable of scoring a lot, obviously. It's just coming at times, like in that fourth quarter in the Denver game, our huge scoring output came when we were down 25, So it's like, once we figure out our flow earlier on, or like shots start falling earlier, I think the Kings will, offensively, that will help. I mean, when we score 120, that should be enough to win, but we allow 143 for the Knicks.
That's not good enough.
That's just obviously,
we can't let our success on offense dictate our effort on defense, right? But it helps when you have a lead. It helps you be more comfortable in the defensive end. It kind of puts less pressure on you, I feel like, because you're able to make your defensive rotations without, having this big lead you need to kind of, get over and whatnot. So, yeah, we just need to start games better, man, and have other teams feel us. And we've done that on the road, right? We did that against Boston. We did that against Chicago during our last road trip. So, yeah, I think especially on this road trip, it's going to be important the next 4 games going forward to start out with the lead early.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't shocked that we started slow in the Denver game because they didn't fly into Denver they didn't land until like 3:30 in the morning. They didn't get their bags till 3:50 in the morning, and they probably didn't go to bed till like 4 or 5. So like when that's not on your side and you're already losing an hour from the time change in Denver. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything crazy, but the fact that we were still able to compete in that game, especially at the end when everyone was rooting for Doug to, bench the whole starting 5, the whole fourth quarter. But I mean, when you saw Fox out there, you're like, okay, well, we're still competing out there, So we definitely have it in us to fight against these really good teams. It's just, we just came up short this time around, and I'm not worried. I just think the defense is just one thing that's always been. It's just so deflating when we're getting out rebounded and like. Guys like Precious Achua are having good nights against us down low because Trey Lyles can't guard him. You know what I mean? Sure. So like that's just like my one thing that I always think about is with the trade deadline right around the corner, less than 2 weeks away, are we actually going to finally get a guy that will make up that perimeter defense and just wing defender that we've been praying for?
And Don Rollins can be a perimeter defender and also a paint presence, right?
Yep.
He's not the biggest in the biggest big man in the world, right? He's obviously a small ball kind of forward, but he's able to guard in the post and he's able to defend in the perimeter. But I think this loss makes Monday against Brooklyn a must-win game, not only for the standings but our team's morale. I think losing 3 straight after that hot winning streak that we had would be a killer to our mindset. But yeah, I definitely want to see a trade going forward.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think also you talk about Monday being a must-win. Thursday against Philly is also going to be a must-win too, because again, I've talked about it earlier. The West is so competitive; you cannot lose ground whatsoever. Luckily, I mean, the Mavericks are kind of on a skid right now, and they started off really hot. They're basically on a skid, so the window is open. I mean, it's going to take a lot of just being able to play consistent basketball just to be able to be in that mix.
Yeah, but this stretch before the All-Star break is what's going to take us from an 8 seed to a 6 seed. So we need to take these games really serious. We want to go into the All-Star break in that top 6 range, right? Kind of away from the play-in 7 through 10. So this is going to be a telltale sign on how mature our team's mindset is. But the guys are in the locker room right now, obviously pending any trades, but the guys in the locker room right now showed that they can get the job done, and we need to do that.
Yeah, and just looking forward, I mean, that Nets game and the Sixers game, those are very, very, very winnable games. But then if you look at the next 25 games or 23 games, 17 of those are on the road. So when we come back home, it's for one game, and then we go back on the road. So it's we do not have a fun schedule coming up. And this is through February, so we have to really dig in.
For sure.
And
but every team goes through it.
I know.
Every team goes through it. We need to lock in. We need to be a mature team. No excuses. And I think that's what Doug Christie's preaching. He's been through it. He's played in the league 15 years. No excuses at all. Obviously Denver was its own situation. So annoying that we had to go from Sacramento to Denver and get in so late. Whatever. That's a schedule loss. But these games going forward, and that's why I'm saying Monday's a must-win game, they separate mature teams from weak mindset teams, and that's what we got to show.
Yeah, and I love that that's what Doug is bringing the most. I think their headspace is great. I think just some things on the floor just are not working out right now, especially on the defensive end when we're getting outsized. That's I think is something that Monty will fix. I'm hoping. I mean, there's definitely guys out there that would benefit our team. Let's just dive in right now about the trade deadline in general. So I think the one guy that the Kings are super set on is John Collins. And I mean, there's been so many reports about it, but the thing is, sometimes a trade will happen that was not talked about once. Obviously, the Sabonis-Halliburton trade. That no one would have ever expected that. So RT thinks Robert Williams could be another guy, but it seems like we're both listing guys here that are what they bring is what we've been needing, So I think going that direction rather than like a Kuzma who scores and doesn't defend and who has a, I don't think that's that's
wrong. Offense is fine.
Wrong path.
Offense is fine.
Wrong path.
Yeah. So I think a guy like John Collins, even though he would help tremendously on offense if we put him to the bench, but I think he could also help with defense a lot.
For sure.
And me and RT were talking about on previous episodes that the lob threat that John Collins would bring with Malik Monk would be insane as well. So I think John Collins is my number one. Mm-hmm. And then I would like to see maybe a Matisse Thybulle edition or a Robert Williams edition, and just someone that would be another guy out there that will just emphasize that, this team is a defensive team. We could score with anyone, but defense is where we're really going forward.
I don't think you need to be an NBA GM to look at our team and say this team needs defensive help, right? You don't need to be a general manager, president, but you can watch our highlights against the Knicks and know that we need defensive help. And the Kings have been linked to John Collins for years. It's not just this season. It was last year, it was the year before. I feel like we've always been linked to John Collins. So we know this front office loves him, respect him, like him as a player, even when he was with Atlanta. And I think this is the year, if any, that a deal gets done and John Collins is on the Kings. So
I know what RT is willing to give up for John Collins. What are you willing to give up, Johnny?
So we can match salaries if we give up Lyles and Herter. I think that's what most trade packages, trade analyzers, whatever that people would post on Twitter. So I'd be willing to give up Lyles, Herter, and with the way John Collins is playing, an unprotected first.
That's what I think online.
I think an unprotected first is worthy of John Collins. And I think, as much as it sucks to give up picks, I think he's going to help our team that much to where an unprotected first is good value for him.
No, I mean, I think that's what Danny Ainge in Utah is searching for. He loves picks.
Yeah.
And I think an only way a deal would happen is if a first is included. At first I thought maybe we would sneak away with a second round or two.
But Danny Ainge is a tough cookie.
He's a very tough cookie.
Yeah.
No.
He's
And
not
you saw
easy
what he
to
did with
trade
the Gobert trade. I mean, he got the whole house for
Fleeced
Gobert.
him.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like I don't even think the Kings have a lot of second round picks to even throw out there. So I think it's our 2 first round picks are like what is very desirable for opposing teams. RT, what do you think if the John Collins trade didn't go through? No Robert Williams, no Matisse Thybulle. Is there anyone else out there that has caught your eye that would be a perfect fit for our team?
Yeah, I've seen some people say Jonas Valanciunas, but I'm not relatively sold on Jonas Valanciunas because I think that to me, Jonas Valanciunas is almost similar to Domas besides like his passing, where he's just a scorer and a rebounder, and he doesn't really do a lot of rim protecting as much. So I would kind of stay away from him. I would also be more in line with just trying to find wing defenders that are out there for us. But that's kind of just all win now mode. I think the worst case scenario that could happen is we do nothing at the trade deadline. I think that is the worst case possibility ever because you can't rely on the buyout market because then, there's always the buyout market that always happens. And some people, they'll buy out. But even then, buyouts, how's that really transfer into anything? It really doesn't. So buyouts are more of just a low risk, low reward type event. If you really want to just go for it, I say you got to make at least one move. So if it is someone along the lines of John Collins, fantastic. I also have seen Patrick Williams be mentioned too as a potential trade candidate.
Walker Kessler, I've seen.
Yeah, Walker Kessler, I've seen as another guy. I wouldn't mind seeing Walker Kessler being that backup big for us. I think that would be a very solid thing. Sure. Patrick Williams, I'm not really 100% sold on.
I'm not
Maybe
sold.
for a second round pick.
Yeah, for like a 2031 second round pick.
Protected second round pick.
Protected second round pick. So
top 59 protected.
Yeah, top 59 protected. Exactly.
Yeah, he's. But those are all good names for sure. And it's going to depend. It's going to depend on how much Monty's willing to give up. We don't know, right? We've seen him make crazy moves before. So if anything we know about Monty is that he's very unpredictable. And he's really good at keeping things in-house. We've heard a lot of rumors during his tenure with the Kings, but not a lot of them have come to fruition. Obviously, the Halliburton-Sabonis trade was never a rumor. It wasn't on anyone's radar. So I don't think anything that big is going to happen to our team. But we never know what Monty has up his sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell. We're very, very close. Next thing I wanted to bring up was De'Aaron Fox, pinky injury, and now sprained thumb on the opposing hand. Over the past 5 games or so, De'Aaron has his field goal percentage has been terrible with his shooting hand. So, I mean, what do you think is going on with De'Aaron? Do you think it's best if he continues to just try and shoot through what he's going through? Because when he's out there, he's not attacking as much. And when he does attack, people slap at his hand again. And then he just keeps getting, more injuries with his hands.
Yeah.
So it's like what we've been seeing is he's been shooting a lot of threes still. And he's still getting to his mid-range, which I love. But his shot doesn't look right, with what's going on. Even though in tonight's game, he made his last 2 shots in the fourth quarter. But, I mean...
Yeah,
he's been shooting very low percentage over the last few games, and his numbers have dipped tremendously. So
yeah, he doesn't look good. He doesn't look comfortable. He doesn't look like himself. And with the way Malik Monk is playing point guard for our team lately, I wouldn't mind just De'Aaron sitting out until All-Star break, get that hand right, and then utilize him for the second half of the season. Monk has shown that he's able to be our main playmaker on the court. Bring Ellis in, have that be our backcourt, and let Fox rest his hand. Obviously, we don't know how long his recovery is going to be, but if it's hindering him this much, I think just having him sit out the rest of this, through the All-Star break, the rest of these games until the All-Star break would help our team a lot. And Malik Monk being our point guard wouldn't be a bad thing at all.
No, I mean, I agree. I think that was going to be my thing I was going to say too. Usually sprain thumbs, if it's not as bad, they probably will recover. Unless it's a high degree sprain, then I don't think it will recover it'll take a longer recovery. I wouldn't mind him sitting out these next 2 games and basically just getting him rested, because those next 2 games after Philly and Brooklyn are OKC and Minnesota.
Right.
And those are big games, and those are kind of must-win games territory where you got to just, and on the road too. So, I mean, those are 2 tough games. So I rather would have a healthier Fox play in those 2 games rather than a less healthy Fox in the next 2 games against Philly and Brooklyn.
Right. This might be a Doug Christie call where, he pulls De'Aaron to the side and say, hey, man, like, you're not looking like yourself. We need you the second half of the season. We need you the rest of the season. Because I don't know if he's going to make the call. We know players always want to play through stuff and prove themselves. Obviously, he's in a contract year, so he wants to prove himself. But, I think Doug Christie needs to have a sit down with him and just, ask him, hey, do you, we're going to be fine without you for the next few games. We need you in the long run. Is this something you want to rest and kind of take slow?
Yeah, I mean, because that's what I think is what's going through De'Aaron's head, is he doesn't want to sit because, there's a lot of outside factors that are reliant on how well he's playing out on the floor. And I think with those type of injuries, I don't think they're just going to heal overnight. That's why I'm like, if he were to just rest 2 games, I don't think it's going to fix the issue, Even to All-Star break, I don't think the pinky is you rest and let it heal on its own. Like that requires surgery. The sprain, however, I think the sprain is something he could play through, but I mean, just having that discomfort while you're playing it's obviously going to affect him, And I think as strong-willed as a player he is, he's going to want to play. But yeah, I think you're right, Johnny. I think Doug or someone else would have to make the call for him to sit out, because I don't think he wants to do that, and he has it in him to be like, you know what, no, like he's too much of a competitor to do that. But yeah, I think those type of injuries will take time, and I think that's why he's like, I'll get it fixed in the off season, because obviously you have months for the surgery recovery time and everything. But during the season, if he wants to fix the pinky or that type of stuff, it's going to take months, So that's the concern, and I don't want this to just be like a lingering thing for him, because say we get into like the playoffs or playing whatever it is at the end of the season, and he's still dealing with that. That's just going to be unfortunate when our star player. Luckily, I mean, Malik Monk has just been blossoming, and like you saw him today, like De'Aaron was playing in the corner, and Monk was bringing up the ball, and I love seeing that, because he is, like we all know, he is the distributor of the team. Like the way Monk passes with his right hand to Sabonis' left hand, it's almost unstoppable. And it's like Malik he scored 31 points tonight. I think he had 9 assists. So so it's like he's doing so many great things with Fox's shooting slump right now. But yeah, it's just definitely something where who knows how long this is going to affect Fox, especially when we're trying to make like the deep run that we're aspiring,
Yeah. With the way Monk is playing, it should be easier to make that call. We're going to need Fox, and I think, but every time he plays to this injury, it's setting back the recovery process. So, someone needs to make the call and just let him know, hey, Malik's got us for a little bit. Take your time, rest up, because we're going to need you.
And I agree. I think also just having Keon Ellis more in getting more minutes, getting a starting role, allows Devin Carter to have more minutes, another defensive guy that you can also bring in and provide that production when Fox is out. We saw that a lot in the Celtics game when he was out. So it's a recipe that has been successful. I don't mind him resting and just being like, hey, this is a good long-term, because I still believe we can compete in a lot of those games too. So overall, I think it's a good long-term move just to let Fox sit for those next couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll get an alert that Fox decides to sit. I mean, we all think it will be for the best interest for himself. And who knows, maybe the team as well. But I mean, just in the small sample size with Fox out, there was success, and then with Fox's injuries, you could just see how he's playing on the court. It's just not what we're accustomed to. He does not look comfortable.
Not at all.
So the Kings are 6-0 when we do not fall into a double-digit deficit. So basically the storyline is we can't let these deficits happen.
We win every game we're actually in. Top by 10.
Yeah, so that is
Yep.
That's a wild stat,
Yep.
actually.
But the All-Stars starters were just announced. Let's just talk about the West. It was LeBron, Steph, KD, RT, help me with this.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Shea, of course, and
you said Jokic, right?
not Jokic, and Jokic.
Yeah.
So those are the 5. There's only 7 more spots left.
I went 10 for 10 though. I went 10 for 10.
Yeah,
I went 10 for 10.
RT
I went 10 for 10.
knew.
I went 10 for 10. I got the script.
So the question is, will Sabonis be an All-Star this year?
He should.
I think it's a yes.
I think it's a yes.
Because
I think
the
he's our only
media,
All-Star.
it's not on our side right now. With what we saw on TNT with, I think Chuck was the only one that had Sabonis, Shaq, Kenny. I don't know if it's the coaches vote, right? The coaches vote.
Yeah, well, the coaches vote, and then the players pick, like the team captains pick the rosters, right?
Yeah, so I think with the coaches vote,
I think coaches respect Sabonis more.
Sabonis, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's gonna have to. I feel like it comes down to winning too. So
Yeah.
if we go into the All-Star break kind of on a slump, it definitely hurts his chances. But if we win a little, bit
if we
more,
win the next two, then that
if we
will
win the
help.
next two, yeah, I think he has a good shot.
I think if Sabonis has a monster game on Monday, I think he'll be a lock for an All-Star.
I think so.
I think it would just be so crazy for him not to make it with what he's been doing. Although
Another
we're
triple-double
an 8
tonight.
seed.
Another
Dude,
triple-double.
he's just been on an unbelievable tear this season. Better than
Yeah.
his All-NBA seasons and better than his previous All-Star seasons.
He played the second half today with a hurt ankle too. So
Yeah.
a lot of people don't, they watch the highlights, they watch the YouTube clips and stuff, but us Kings fans who watch the entire game know how much of a beating he gets in every night and still produces.
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked if Sabonis doesn't make it. Maybe if we were like same numbers that the guys on our team are averaging, but we were like a third or second seed, then maybe we would be in the conversation to have multiple All-Stars, but I don't think we're living in that reality right now. I think it's only like Sabonis is the only one that's going to have a shot, but that's pretty much all we have. I think the one thing we need to talk about to end it is Nets, 76ers, then is it Timberwolves, Thunder?
I think it's
Timberwolves?
Thunder Timberwolves.
So
I could be wrong, but I
with the
think it's
4
those
games,
two.
RT, what's going to happen?
I think we split. I think
We split?
Yeah. I think we'll just go 2-2.
So you think the wins will be the Nets, 76ers?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
What do you say,
Yeah.
Johnny?
So I kind of have a bold take. I think
Please
these
tell me.
last 2 losses is great fuel for Doug Christie to get on our boys' asses, and fuel us all up. And I'm going to take a bold take and say we win the next 4 games on this road trip.
I love it.
Thank you
think
for
we
that.
beat
Thank you for
Brooklyn.
that.
We beat Philly, barbecue chicken, De'Aaron Fox, Little Bros, OKC, Shea, and I think we beat Minnesota. I think these last 2 losses are just fuel in the fire that Doug Christie is putting into each player, and I think we're going to come out these next 4 games and be aggressive. And the good part is we have a day in between the games, right? So no back-to-backs. They're relatively close in flights, Brooklyn, then Philly, and then got 3 days off, and then we have OKC in Minnesota. So I'm going to make the bold take and say we win our next 4 games on this.
I'd love to hear that.
I like that.
I think the most important game out of those is the Minnesota game.
Yeah.
Because that's a team that we might have to see in a potential first round, potential play-in. That's a team that we're going to be seeing for years and years to come. So I think this would be a great opportunity for us to just set the record straight. I think we were 2-2 with them last season, and then I think we're
so.
0-2 this season. Or are we 1-1?
1-2. 1-2.
Oh, we've played them 3 times. My bad.
Yep.
My
Yeah.
bad. Yes. So
Play them twice in a month.
yeah, so that's why I think this would be such an important win, the Timberwolves game out of the 4. But
Yeah.
obviously,
We can't lose to Brooklyn.
we cannot because we've already lost to them.
We already have. Yeah, this is one of the biggest must-win games coming off losing back-to-back. I think this is a must-win game for sure. Granted, how our opponent, right? We need to take care of business. This is a take care of business game on Monday.
We're hoping for a blowout because the Nets are missing tons of players right now.
Yeah.
They're a crippled team who's
Rebuilding.
They have no identity right now, no structure with their roster construction because I bet you at the trade deadline they're gonna make tons of moves. And yeah, but I think that's all we have for today. The Kings are 0-2 on the road trip. Keep your heads up because we will, and we're hoping that there's brighter days ahead, bluer skies, not bluer, purpler skies, and hopefully the Kings turn around this road trip and come home with a nice over 500 record.
Hell yeah. Like the video, subscribe, let us know in the comments if you want us to do a live in-game viewing with the Kang Gang pod. Let us know if you'd like that because we've talked about it amongst us, and it could be in the works. But let us know in the comments. Give us the feedback if you would join us on a live viewing session during a Kings game, and we can get things
It'll be
going.
fun through YouTube. You know,
That'd be fun.
We would do it through
That'd be
YouTube. It
fun.
would be a live stream.
We want to
You
make sure
can't-
the boys are watching and
so you
girls.
can't broadcast the game. I thought you could, but obviously with the copyright,
No.
you can't broadcast the game. But we could have. There's a way where you could put up
we
like
can put
the
the
score,
stats,
the stats, and we
the
could,
shot chart and everything.
Yeah. So
That would be
we're
fun.
thinking about doing that in the near future. So if you'd like to see that, if you're still listening after a after a 45-minute podcast after a blowout loss,
on your way to work.
yeah. If you hear this and you are interested in that, we will definitely make it happen.
For
but
sure.
anyways, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, we love you.
Love
Good
you.
night.